Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Nation. We're back. We're back real quick. I haven't been doing as many of these, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But we are back, and we're going to talk a little negotiations talk, just a little bit about George Pickens. We're going to talk about it right now.
They are an accident waiting to happen. Stephen A, hush your mouth, talking all that noise. You can hate all you want, but we still them boys. Dirty, dirty D, Texas where we stay at. Be inside in order till you know that's where we play at. Hey, this year, this the payback. Yeah, we them Cowboys, and now we don't play that. Work, this is Cowboy Nation. Work, welcome to Cowboy Nation. Work, y'all can keep on hate.
Yes, Cowboy Nation. We are going to talk a little bit about George Pickens. The biggest reason is because people are upsetting me. Listen. I don't do a lot of conversations about drafting, right? Because I realize when it comes to really scouting players, I mean, these guys out here are great. Foots the King, amazing. Vach Lombardi, amazing. Obviously, Brian Broaddus is who's taught a lot of guys what it is that needs to be doing or that they need to be doing. He's amazing. These guys are good, and I don't want to come in and fake the funk and act like I can produce scouting material as good as they can. I am a fan, and I talk about fan stuff. Now, in that fandom, then I am going to talk about players I hope the Cowboys can get, but I'm not going to scout all 200 players because I'm not as good as them. Matter of fact, I'm literally listening to them to tell y'all who I think we should and should not get. So I would say easily go out and listen to Vach, go out and listen to Crown Global Media, go out and listen to Foots the King. And they're not the only ones. Those are just the ones that I listen to the most. But Fish does a great job of it too. However, what I am good at, I'm good at negotiations. That's what I do all day, every day for a job. I negotiate. So when I watch negotiation stuff, I've told this story before last year when everybody was saying, oh, don't worry about it. Micah Parsons will get signed. He'll get signed before right in time, da-da-da. And I kept telling y'all, things don't really look that way to me. But oh, what a difference a year makes. Because let's just be honest. Had last year not happened, there would be no one saying, oh my God, we may not get George Pickens this year. Okay. If last year hadn't happened, everybody would be saying, oh, this is just what the Cowboys do. It'll be okay. George Pickens will be on by the end of the year. But because last year happened and it caught everybody off guard, all these guys who aren't really paying attention to negotiation posture, they're only paying attention to what they feel, right? They're going to tell you, oh my God, this is the same agent that Jerry had a problem with last year, and we could be in for quite a surprise. And I'm here to tell you that, again, I've said this before, if you go back to a couple of my other videos, I don't believe that Jerry had a big issue with the agent. David Mulligata was not the issue. I don't think that's where the issue is. I think the issue last year was directly with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons sat down with Jerry, came up with a number. Jerry was like, yep, I can do that number. Let's get it done. Michael was like, cool, I'm going to tell my agent. He told his agent. Agent was like, I could get more. Michael was like, oh, well, let's try to get more. Well, you already made an agreement. This is the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, an oral agreement is an agreement. Obviously, that doesn't work in the NFL because the NFL rules won't allow it. But technically, if you agreed to something, then that is the agreement. All he has to do is be able to prove that you agreed to it. And Mike has already said, yeah, I said it, but then I need to go and talk to my agent afterwards. So Jerry felt disrespected directly by Micah Parsons. This wasn't an issue with David Mulligan. Now there was a little bit of an issue just because he has an issue with every agent. Those are his adversaries. That's who he's negotiating with. David Mulligan is really good at getting a lot of money out of teams, and Jerry Jones has been fairly decent with pushing his payments back. And let's talk about that because a lot of people discuss, from a business standpoint as an entrepreneur. And I've had many, restaurants, nightclubs, consulting businesses, things of that nature. And everybody says, man, if you sign this player now, you would save some money, right? You could have saved them a year ago and then you wouldn't have had to pay this much money and different things like that. But let me just tell you that sometimes you pay when you can afford to pay. There are many a times, even in my house, even when I'm talking to my wife, where I'll be like, hey, we're going to end up paying a little bit more money for this. But instead of giving them all the money right now, I'm going to push it out a little bit. So I'm going to pay this minimum payment here for a couple of months. And then I'll put the big payment that we were going to pay. I'm going to go ahead and put that on once we get into the summertime. But for right now, while we're in the spring, I'm going to use the money for this because I want this too. And it'll allow us to get both things. Right. And me and my wife, we've done it quite a few times. Hey, look, I want to go on a little weekend getaway. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to take this money. Right. I'm going to put a minimum payment on this bill so that we can actually get the little getaway that we want to get. And then, I'll pay a minimum payment for a couple of months. And then when I get my bonus in the summertime, boom, I'll pay the rest of that down. Yes, I could have paid in the springtime, not went on my trip, saved a little money in interest, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted my weekend trip. The Dallas Cowboys are very similar. Sometimes they have to do and pay for other things. And that means, hey, I may not be able to do Dak Prescott this year. I may have to push him back a couple of years. And because I did, that means I'm paying a higher price, a little interest onto pushing back what I had to push. That's good for the player. And honestly, it's good for the team because they were able to get what they needed at the time and long-term keep their player. So it's not always a horrible thing to take things and push them back. It's also not a horrible thing to not jump into a negotiation ready to throw money at people. That's not good negotiations for anybody. There's no negotiator, attorney, anywhere in the land that's going to say, I'm going to walk into this negotiations and say, hey, what do you want? Whatever it is, I'm going to give it to you because I got to have you. That's not good negotiations. So all the people who way back in the third game of the season, they were saying, man, we need to do the long term. No, we don't want him to know that we got to have him. Even you say, oh, he knows we got to have him. No, he don't, because he just watched a player that everybody thought we needed to have and Micah Parsons get traded out. So, yeah, there's a little bit of better get it right for him, too. And you have to be able to keep some form of the upper hand there. You can't give the player the upper hand every time. I laugh at a lot of people who be like, man, we got to go in there and we got to do this. And I don't have to do anything. And that's what the owner has to try to convince you of, at least. I don't have to do anything, but I like to get the deal done, but it's got to be in some terms that the team as a whole can continue. I need you to work within that team. As a player, I'm thinking completely different. I need all the money I can get, every single penny of it. But I would rather play for this team than that team. I don't mind that. Sometimes a player be like, I don't mind getting traded. I don't like playing for this team anyway. Whatever his decisions are, he's going to give them to his agent and they're going to do the best things possible. And that's how negotiations work, right? And so in this situation, I don't think it's as bad as people really think it is. No, if I'm the Cowboys, I wouldn't be running over there. Hey, man, look, we put this 10-year. I know you ain't signed it yet. We want you to be long-term, man. Let's go ahead and sit down and hash this out, right? That's not the best situation. No, hey, look, I gave you this. You need to sign it. If you don't want to sign it, I don't know what to tell you. This could be where we end up being. Take it down, and we're playing poker in this situation. And then if right before, June and the time is coming and he's going to have to make a decision, right? Because at that point, he can make a decision to sign this contract or not make any money. I'm just going to sit out. I ain't going to make no money. $0 this year. And that's not an easy decision either. The Cowboys know that. Now, with that being said, David Mulligetta hadn't had a player that has played on the franchise tag yet. First of all, it was the first time for everything. I don't don't care about any of that if I'm the one that has to make the decisions. But realistically, this is the Cowboys way. Last year with Micah wasn't necessarily the Cowboys way, but this is Jerry Jones' mantra. This is what he does. He's gonna push it back. Yeah, we'll probably get a deal done, and we'll get a deal done closer to the last minute than anything, or it could even go, a little bit past the last minute. We've seen that happen too. But I do believe that a deal gets done. Last year, I didn't say that. With Micah Parsons, I never said that. Everybody else said that. All those guys who y'all are watching for drafts, and I'm not talking about watching and Foots and stuff in particular. They are better draft people than I am. But I am a negotiator by heart. That's what I do all day, every day for my job, my real life job. I am not only just a negotiator in that situation. I am a professional football contract negotiator. Canadian Football League, not National Football League, but regardless of the fact, I understand the art of negotiation. And this isn't as bad as people and your natural mind. People hire negotiators to go out and get them cars because as good as you want to think, oh, I can go out and negotiate this car. I'm a trained professional. You're not going to do what I do. It's impossible. So again, with that being said, I'm looking at the posture, everything that's going on, looking at George Pickens' perspective. George Pickens is still going out with CeeDee Lamb. He's still doing his thing. He still wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. Jerry Jones has not been disrespected by George Pickens, right? They're going to use some of him missing meetings and different things like that and not becoming a leader and different, all those different things. They're going to use those things to try to keep him from being at a higher range. I've said before, I think I'm going to stick to it. I think about the highest that I feel like you'd be willing to go is to match him with CeeDee Lamb. Now, that number is not because I feel like he shouldn't be paid more than CeeDee Lamb, right? I think CeeDee Lamb's value is worth more now than it was when he signed his contract, right? I just feel like George Pickens, as far as the leverage that he has, he doesn't have leverage to be about if Jerry Jones does his thing right. He doesn't have the leverage to really get above 33 a year, right? And you might can push it a little bit, but we're definitely not talking about 4. I mean, this isn't Jackson Smith and Jigma. This ain't that contract, right? 30, maybe 34, 35, you can get there and that'll be the sweet spot. I don't know, but I don't feel like the value that's there based on leverage, not based on who he is as a player. It's not based on talent. This is based on negotiation leverage. And based on that leverage, I don't see him being able to really negotiate more than that 33 million a year. And in that situation, yes, he'd be making the same thing as what CeeDee Lamb was making 2 or 3 years ago, but maybe not the same as CeeDee Lamb would be valued today. If CeeDee Lamb had to do another contract today, I feel like that contract at that time matches the $40 million or exceeds it. You see what I mean? So, yeah, CeeDee Lamb would be ranked higher if he had to do a contract today. George Pickens, not from a talent standpoint, but just from I have stuff that I can tell you about that you're missing meetings, that you had to be sat down. There was a whole drive. It wasn't a whole quarter. It may have been a quarter. It may have been 2 drives. I don't remember now. But there was a time where because you showed up late and drug our other star wide receiver out late with you, because he's going to get the blame for it, it could have very easily been CeeDee Lamb that drug George Pickens out. We don't really know, but we're definitely going to blame George Pickens. Why? Because CeeDee Lamb wasn't doing it before George Pickens got here, at least not that we were told. And George Pickens is the one that has that reputation. You're only 1 year out from the reputation that you have as being a person that wrecks teams. You don't have the leverage to make it to $40 million. That's how I feel about it. And with that, I don't think that there is much more above 33 million. That is pure leverage. Again, that is not his football talent. So if we're going to give an update about George Pickens, calm down. We're not going to end up without him. It's going to be okay. They're going to get him signed, or he's going to play on a franchise tag. And he will willingly play on the franchise tag if they don't get another deal done. Because from a leverage standpoint, he doesn't have the leverage to avoid it. You're not going to not play. The Cowboys know that too. You know, all the stuff that they say, oh, well, you know, George Pickens knows that the Cowboys need him. Well, guess what? The Cowboys also know George Pickens is not going to just decide not to play. And if you're not going to decide not to play, you could very easily play on this franchise tag this year and the franchise tag next year. Now, instead of $33 million a year, you're getting 27 and maybe 30. And then if you're mad at me, maybe you go somewhere else after there. But hopefully we've already gotten what we needed out of you. That's the realism of a negotiation. That's why I'm saying from a leverage standpoint, he doesn't have the leverage to make it to $40 million a year. Now, that doesn't mean the Cowboys can't give it to him, but he doesn't really have that leverage. Hey, if y'all got any more questions, man, y'all hit me up on my social media. My social media is ihearddwill or Defending the Boys. It's Defending the Boys on Instagram and Defending the Boys on TikTok. It is Defending the Boys with a DA instead of a THE on X, formerly Twitter. So if you want to reach out to me on any of those social media platforms, more than welcome to do so. Hit me up, and probably right after the draft, or we might do something for the draft, we'll start to get more active, more, you know, weekly or maybe even back to daily. You know, in the season, we're on here every day, but I do want for you guys to continue supporting the guys who really do this draft stuff, because they really, really do it. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys sometime after the draft. I'm out.